content buckets, okay? And these are your favorites. So when we shared a form with you guys for this workshop, you were asked that who's your favorite creator? And we also said that, we're quite serious about we actually want to know. So you picked some names. So we've picked some of your favorites options and done a decode on their profile on the buckets. So today what we want to answer is that are the buckets going to be very specific to me? Is there some sort of a format that I can figure out that I can, like a rule that I could follow that could make my job easy and I don't have to take these decisions again and again? And with that, the first question that we should answer is how many content buckets should we even have, right? Like you could have five because you do so many things. You could even have seven or only have one. So after working with a lot of founders on LinkedIn for building their personal brands, this is what we figured out. You only need three content buckets because that precisely goes with what LinkedIn is also as a platform about. Number one is personal. Personal content is more around the lines of personal milestones, personal journey, but largely around work. If you can keep it through there, then you kind of have, you haven't exposed yourself too much on LinkedIn because LinkedIn is a work-oriented platform. So you may not want to talk about, all the vacations you're taking, but you may want to talk about the vacation, which is an actual break that you have taken. So that kind of is the line where you draw that. Now, this kind of content will have like your pictures, this kind of content will have maybe a video or, anything like an album where you are actually at an event and there are a couple of pictures of that. This this builds the personal branding with your audience. It builds the connect because they're able to like kind of visually see you, okay, who you are as a person, what your body language is like, among other things. Now, second bucket is business. This is the bucket where you want people to read your content on and think that you're an intelligent person, you're an expert in the industry. So that becomes your business bucket. Could be anything for any business, like whatever your business is, it depends primarily on that. But it will generically be a business bucket only. There's no other bucket name that you can actually give it to. Now, who are you writing content for this bucket? The target audience, the people you actually want to generate, business from, some sort of partnership from, some sort of a collaboration from. So that is your target audience. So this content usually doesn't perform as well as the personal content or the growth content, right? Now, the last bucket is growth. And of course, it'll not be as boring. I'll share some examples as we move ahead. But last is the growth bucket. So what is growth bucket? See, guys, you'll probably say, like, for example, Mridu will say, Jatin, why should I talk about, let's say, something that's not relevant to communication skills or something that's not relevant to CEOs or VCs or founders because that's my, essential target audience. I mean, it makes sense, but they're always going to be like there's always going to be an issue with this that if you're specifically focusing on your target audience, the content is not going to get as much amount of reach because it's not relevant for everyone. It's only relevant for your specific target audience, which pool is smaller than the overall larger pool of LinkedIn, right? Now, if you talk about something which is, let's say, common for everyone, where everyone can have an opinion, like for example, is Gurgaon a better city or Bangalore? I think that Gurgaon is a better city because I built my career there, whatever, whatever. A lot of people will come and they'll file and say, no, Bangalore is better. Now, that's a conversation that's happening. I mean, it doesn't need to be like this shallow as I'm saying, but I'm saying that that topic becomes relevant for a lot of people on LinkedIn, and that helps you grow. Now, why do you need this growth? Why do you even need growth in your content? Like, I mean, we can go slow, we can only focus on target audience. See, the funda is when your post goes viral or when more people are reading your post, that ways you're attracting more business and relevant people. Imagine this now that if your post is reaching to 1 lakh people, you don't get 1 lakh reactions, you don't get 1 lakh comments. People are reading. There's so many lurkers on LinkedIn, and some of those lurkers will end up benefiting by some problem that you're solving for them. So, in order to do that, we use three buckets. One's personal to build your brand. Second is business to get you business. Third is growth to get those numbers up for impressions and for followers that you're gaining on your profile. If anyone has any questions, I can take them. Otherwise, we'll get started with the first example. So, I think we're good. Okay, so here we go. This is the first example. So this was Sandhya's form, and Sandhya said that my favorite person to follow on LinkedIn is Karthik. So I went through Karthik's profile and I did the content bucket test. So my test is that am I what I'm saying on this call? Is it actually true for all the good LinkedIn profiles, or at least the LinkedIn profiles that you guys personally like? So now let's look at who Karthik is. Let's get some understanding of who he is as a person, because then we'll be able to make sense of his content, right? Now, he is, founder of flexible.com. Actually, Sandhya, would you like to tell what Karthik does? Because I think it's your choice. You'd probably know better. You're on mute. You're on mute. I think you just have to press the, yeah.
Sorry.
Right.
So Karthik was part of Festival. He's been building that for 3 years now. He was part of another foundation called Build also, which gives talent to startups, remote talent basically. That's what they work on. So I interviewed for his company, and that's how I know him. And he was such a down to earth guy, and I started following him on LinkedIn. And you should watch the post that he puts. Even just before getting on the call, I saw a post where he had written early stage startups are your hobbies, and it becomes a growth stage when it makes money. Like very, very short things like that he writes, which keeps you hooked and also makes a lot of sense. And that's why I really like it.
Pretty cool. Now, in Sandhya's introduction of Karthik, she definitely said the word startups multiple times, just like how Steve Jobs would say the word creative in his speech multiple times. So that's what his brand is. That is the answer to what does Karthik brand stand for. It stands for a voice in startups, for startups, about startups. Can be a crisp voice, short voice, long form voice, whatever that is. But it is startups is his main area, his domain where he's his niche, basically, you could say, right? Now, let's look at his content and let's look at his buckets. So for Karthik, who's the founder, the first bucket is personal, first connections. Let me see if I can reduce the size of this and you all can look at it. Yeah. So this one is, oh wow, this could happen. So this one is personal, like the personal bucket, where he's talking about when I left my, 100,000 pound job at JP Morgan Chase for a startup. My friends thought, I had gone crazy. One even said I regret it if when they would be way ahead in their careers. Here is the thing, I had no interest in beating them. I just wanted to do something that made me happy. So this is, even though this is about startups, right? He is talking about his niche, but he's still focusing primarily on his personal experience. Now, that is exactly what I'm trying to say here, and that's what I was trying to say earlier as well. That on LinkedIn, when you're saying personal experience, maybe just call it professional experience, if that helps of replacing the word personal there. Because it has to be something professional. See, why would you want to talk about anything personal on LinkedIn when you don't want any end result of any personal relationship out of LinkedIn? You want all professional outcomes from LinkedIn. So talk about professional experiences and what's, in general happening on LinkedIn. So he passes the first, round of the test. Now, his way of writing, again, we will go to a content writing workshop, but I'll give you a rough sketch. His way of writing is very simple. He takes like, one decision or one thing that he did in his life. So something that in your life where you would have done something where you left something big for something else. That, is the structure. Then, what did people say? Because log kya kahenge is a thought process, that kind of triggers and be like, so that works. Next is, what was his take on it? Like he had no interest. And then, it's a closing message for everyone, which is kind of like, generic, which gets the heart of the audience. Now, you'll find similar pattern in his writing style because those patterns will also, tone of voice patterns we'll discuss when we'll discuss content writing. We'll find those patterns because that's what happens with a brand. With the way you speak or the way you write or the way you talk, it kind of starts reflecting in, your content as well. Okay. Now, second bucket. So second bucket was, can anybody say what was the second bucket?
Business connections.
Business. So second was business and target audience. So business content for your target audience. Like for example, this one. Typical pattern of hiring in startups. Like Sandhya said that his company is about global tech recruitment, right? So now for him to talk about hiring in startups, now it's making a lot of sense for me. So it means that some of his clients or maybe, larger chunk of his clients is startups. Because he's not talking about hiring in enterprises, hiring in MNCs, hiring in like, I don't know what. He's talking about specifically startups. So now you're getting like a hang of like, okay, what his business audience is like. So because he wants startup founders to be interested in his content, so he's focusing on, this particular bucket. So again, in his area of niche. So if your area is, let's say, Indian consumers, so talk about the things, behavioral patterns, activities, a day, how what an Indian consumer does, and maybe then Shreyas, you could put in your 2 cents on what you think about it. That will make people kind of like get an idea of. Like for example, we were having a chat with this founder of like a big company. They're into clothing and fashion and all and everything, right? Like so the business is like very fast. We were like, like it's really tough. Trends change and then you have to change the entire wardrobe. और waste कितना होता होगा तुम्हारा जो बन जाता होगा और क्या करते हो उसका and all and everything. And we're having this conversation with him. And while we're chatting with him, there's so many things that he is just telling us about. Like when he walks, when he goes and travels to any different country, he will definitely go to the store there. because they have stores here in India. So I mean, he will check like, what the lighting is like. So he's telling me that how in the UK market you'll see more darker lights, like yellow and darker play of lights. In India, you'll see very bright lights. You want to show every piece. There's largely no play or shadow. So all of these things are small, minor details. Now, these details build that experience or that post, which then becomes relevant for a person. Don't write anything on LinkedIn, even in business bucket, something that's already available or is in some form of a blog or on some news article. Add your own personal unique flavor, which should be your opinion on it. If you don't have an opinion on it, maybe don't post it on LinkedIn, post it later when you find the opinion on it. Okay. So this is kind of like, a second bucket. Finally, going to the third bucket. Here, third bucket, the growth one, which you write when you want to read, mass of audience. Bangalore has two types of founders. Forbes 30 under 30 attends every startup event, burns 20 lakh every month. Second, low-key one, always in office, focused on building, makes 10 crores in profit. So, would you be poor and famous or rich or anonymous? And again, all of these posts that I'm picking, they've got like 5,000 reactions. They are all like, like content that's kind of like performed really well. So, what I'm trying to say is that this particular bucket, let me just reduce the size of it just to tell you that how a generic bucket kind of performs better. How do I just a second? Okay, this will do it. Okay, so here, if you look at the first one, which is personal, so it's gotten 3,000 reactions. If you look at the business one, it's gotten 1,000 reactions. And if you look at the growth one, it's worked with 5,000 reactions. So what I'm trying to say is that business content, because it's for target audience, will have comparatively lesser performance. So you should mentally know that. Second thing is personal stories will work because they work with your first connections. When the content works with the first connection, LinkedIn sends it to the second and the third connections. Ki chalo, this post has worked, so maybe we should send it to more people. It's probably a good post. And then last one is LinkedIn for LinkedIn audience in general when you're writing. That content should be the highest performing content irrespective, right? So that's what I wanted to share on the three content buckets. We have two more examples on this that we will go through, but I would love to break the room, ask if you guys have any questions or what do you think about it, and maybe chat about your content buckets also. I mean, we could take a break on that as well. So floor's open. Anyone wants to add anything, wants to ask any questions? After that, we move to two.
So I just wanted to add that I've also always noticed that when I write on a larger growth topic, which may not necessarily be about my niche, like I wrote a post on something about 10th boards when the board exams came in, and I shared my own personal journey of board exams, and basically it was a message to parents that listen, career trajectories go all over the place for us.
Well,
And sharing my personal story of how I went from various things, to cut a long story short, from choosing something in class 10 to where I am now, and the two have no connection. So stop worrying about what kids are getting in these board exams and what they choose and whatever, and let them explore. And that post resonated with so many people, and it had such high engagement as well as impressions, only because I feel like, one, my network is probably in that age group of people who have children in the board exam age group, and two, it's a topic that everybody feels
yeah,
about in India, feels strongly about, whether it's even now, when as a working professional, if you think back to your board exam days, you have something to say about it.
yeah.
So yeah, so I totally, I was, as you were talking about that growth audience, and of course, I didn't think of it as scientifically as this, but thank you, that helped.
Hey, no, but this is something that I realized also in my content journey. When we started House of Creators ना, जब हमने औरों की profiles के लिए content करना शुरू किया, that's exactly when we were like, you have to put in the brain and put in the thought of like, you can't miss anything, right? So that's when I realized, and because we were discussing bucketing, and we were like, it's just a balance of these. Only these three buckets. There's no other rocket science, there's nothing else. But you have to now, second step, right? And I think before we start this, it's a good point to introduce this also. How many pieces of content, how many number of posts should you be posting on LinkedIn, let's say in a week? How many should they be? So we can start with, you, Parul, since you haven't even spoken at all today. So hi. And how many posts should we post on LinkedIn in a week? What do you think? What's the number?
I was about to ask you that because I always struggle with the question is how much is too much versus not enough, right? And I'm also very curious to understand, since you gave us a homework last week to figure, at least for me, to figure out my target audience, right? So I did a lot of introspection, and what I understood is I resonate well with people who have corporate jobs, right? I resonate with the struggle of having different bosses, different working style, and you cannot be always vocal about what you can share, you can't share. So my post really resonate with them, and during a conversation with a friend or a buddy or even different leaders, it comes up that I really resonate well with what you said. So one is that. Second is that in corporates, it becomes a little bit of not so good, that if you post too much, that, oh, she doesn't have any other things to do, so she's probably on LinkedIn. So my thing is that having done it once a week always hits that sweet spot. But as a expert in LinkedIn, Jatin, I always struggle with this question, like, what should I do? Like, how much is enough or how much is too little?
Okay. So, Parul, I think the reason why we reach this point, where you are, where I've also been, by the way, where you just kind of like not able to figure out that, how much should I be really doing? The
Yeah.
reason for that is this that we end up thinking that there is just this one number. We're always looking for this number, that we will find a number, the number of posts we should be doing in a week, and that will just solve all our problems and all and everything. And I think that's not kind of like the right approach. I'll give you an example. For example, for somebody like you, where you've mentioned your reasons, and I think they're pretty clear, and it makes sense also that you want to be known more for your work, not what you're writing on LinkedIn about your work, right? Now, once a week is great for you. You just need to figure out the day. On which day is your target audience most active and available on LinkedIn? Is it a Monday? Is it a Wednesday? Is it a Friday? Which day is it? And focus on that particular day, right? Now, for let's say somebody like Mridu, who's actually running a cohort online, she's already having her workshops. So for her, maybe two a week makes more sense. Because for her to do one, because you're somebody who's maintaining and building her presence. She's somebody who's leveraging that presence for a purpose, because she has an actionable right now. You don't have it right now, you may have it later. So that's why you're kind of maintaining your presence. So it's very individualistic, like your personal brand is very specific and unique to you. Similarly, all of these things are also very specific and unique to you. Like hashtags don't work. There is no point of worrying about hashtags in a post at all, because so I mean, do you guys know the hashtag story of why hashtags were introduced? Okay, I'll tell. So when social media platforms had just come, like these Instagrams of the world, right? So they wanted people to be able to track the content so they could give views to people those who were creating content on the platform. And that's why they were using hashtags. That's how hashtags as a, software engineering software concept is there, that you just add a tag in the post and it'll kind of like give you the audience. But that was the initial phase. They needed that help at that time. Now, the content scanners and crawlers can detect every single word on the post, like on LinkedIn. If you're searching about something on LinkedIn, it doesn't necessarily need to be a hashtag in the post. Even if it's a sentence in the post, it's going to display that result to you. So, I mean, logically, if there's no point of hashtags, then there shouldn't be a part of the strategy, right? So, these are some little things that we'll also discover. But to answer your question, we shouldn't get hell bent on like a specific number of it. What it is, it's your brand. If you're posting twice a week and your brand is getting damaged at work, then it's not good. I'm not going to say that, oh, let's go change the world and the people in the office shouldn't think that. No, we're playing a different game. We're playing the game of perception. How are we wanting to be perceived? So that's a very important part of your personal branding strategy. LinkedIn is merely a platform, a tool in the process of it. Cool. Let's go. Number two, and for number two, we've selected Shreyas's choice, which was Vaibhav Domkundwar. I think I said it. Or Domkundwar. Dom. His name has half a dominating in it. Yeah, Shreyas, so tell us a little bit about Vaibhav. Why is he your favorite? What does he do and what do you like about his content?
Yeah, so I think he's basically a VC. He has a firm called Better Capital, right? I think a lot of what he has written is very interesting. It's very exclusive as well. I barely find such kind of sharp insights across. So, and I also know that he's quite well respected, at least among the founder community, right? Primarily for his relevance and for the depth of his insight, and that clearly shows through his posts. Very deep, very insightful. It's one of those rich content. He's one of those people that puts out rich content, right? That you sort of look forward to.
Pretty cool. And as Shreyas also introduced Weber, we very clearly said that, he is in VC. So that just tells you everything you need to know about his industry and the work that Weber is doing. So it's just when you have like a favorite brand, you can see it's just so easy to identify what's the area or the niche that they're working in. So having said that, let's quickly jump in and see what are the three buckets that Weber is following for sure on his profile and what's that content like. So for Weber, first is personal, right? I'm just gonna just reduce the size of this somehow. I'm just gonna move it because it's tricky. So what he's doing is he's kind of thanking Aditi, some person at her work. Then they're sharing about, an experience. We can actually go also on this post if, we would like. So here it's just a post, they kind of like explaining how Better Capital became one of India's hottest early investors. So this is, even though it's personal, it's kind of like, even though it's work related, it's still personal, if you get it, because it's about his experience, his professional experience that he's feeling, the emotions he's feeling at work because of something that happened, right? So it's covering the personal bucket again. Now, if we go to the next bucket, this one is again a business bucket. I don't think I need to necessarily open everything, but you guys will get the drift. So here is the second one, which is business bucket. Super excited to share that we've announced our debt fund, India's largest solo. So the language that's happening over here, it's not a language of I am so happy to share or whatever has happened. It's very like I'm giving you a company update. Like it speaks that. And that is important in your content also to come. Even though first person narrative and storytelling is important, but it's also important to switch from there and maybe on certain posts talk like you're speaking from a stage. And in certain posts talk like we're talking to one person. So switching of that can help you establish a stronger voice. Authority-based voice would require you to speak from a stage sometimes. When I say speak from a stage, means like when you're writing for like one-to-many audience and not for one-to-one. And again, the last bucket, of course, is again growth. Zero CAC. WhatsApp had zero CAC, Instagram had zero CAC, Google had zero CAC. Again, in his industry, in his area, but quite generic. Anybody can, because like Mridu said earlier, that a lot of people can relate to this particular thing because they've given the 10th board exam. Here, a lot of people can relate to this because they may not know or may know about CAC, but they do know about WhatsApp, Instagram, Google, Zoom, currently, or Gmail. And probably if they're on LinkedIn, they have used all of these. So that then says, okay, what is he saying? What is he trying to say? He uses that. Then he kind of like goes and shares his opinion. So in every single post of his, you'll find that there is his personal opinion. You don't find anything like five things to do. We've seen six posts this far. You didn't find anything like five things to do or like cetera, cetera, cetera. None of that was there. Every single post, individual post, which has gone viral, had like a personal opinion or a take. Size could be big or small. That's not that big a deal. I mean, we'll get to that when we'll get to content writing workshop. But the thing is that it's just so simple and clear when you are primarily aware about which bucket you're putting in. So now we answered Parul's question of how much she should be posting on LinkedIn. And we said, once a week is great. Just make it a fantastic post. Now, maybe for Mridu, it could be, two per week. Sandhya, for you, it could be one per week. Shreyas, one per week for you as well. See, the reason I'm saying less is because I didn't come on this call and I didn't start being like, hey guys, where is the post? Hey guys, where is the banner and all and everything. I mean, we'll discuss that at the end of the workshop and that's fine. What I'm saying is that take your time and write something which something you would not find cringe in by yourself in your near future in just a year. Like put some effort into that post and I mean sound intelligent. Maybe you should learn something in that post before you share it with anyone, right? So now this, and then finally number 3, this one we can do very, very quickly so we can move to the next segment. This is my profile because Parul voted for me. So yay! Now I'll quickly do analysis of my content. Easiest thing to do for me. Number 1, personal content, of course. My sister had been with Tesla for 7 years. She got laid off last Friday, and that's the story. So a lot of news media channels also covered the story, right? So personal. So what's happening in my personal life? But again, this is work related. This is culture related, what's happening at Tesla and all and everything. So got around 5,000 reactions on the post. So because at that time, this was a timing based post also. A lot of people were getting laid off from Tesla. I got the news before, it happened to somebody who was close to me. So maybe that. So those personal experiences, right? It's not a professional or personal experience where I'm talking about something happened in the office. This project is amazing. Wow, wow. It doesn't work on LinkedIn. Next, business or target audience, right? So my 2 kinds of target audience I would have. One is entrepreneurs, right? Who we would say, work with us. Second would be content creators, whom we would say, like work at House of Creators. So now for this particular post, I'm actually sharing about the biggest mistake I've ever made. And it kind of got around 9,000 reactions because it was A, honest, B, it was around House of Creators, this mistake I made in the company. So people want to know like what's the money mistake you've made because people are really interested to know. Like for example, if the post was something like I made 5,000 rupees at my first paycheck was 5,000 rupees, but I spent 10,000 rupees celebrating it. So people want to know like the money matters basically. And then finally, last thing is that it is relevant for my target audience for both of them. To the people, those who are, looking for a job at House of Creators, they'll think that, okay, it's a good company to work in. If the founder is saying this, maybe the culture is good. Second is the entrepreneurs are going to think that, okay, this maybe is a good team to work with. They sound like genuine people. So again, stories help you build that, but it's still a business and a target audience oriented bucket. Finally, last is growth of LinkedIn audience. Now I'm talking about my friend was working from home. His company forced him to go to the office, and 2 months later, now they've laid him off. So now the thing is that this is remote working and layoff kind of works because a lot of people have kind of gone through an experience of remote work because COVID happened and a lot of people were working that, or layoffs because like a lot of people have been laid off this year, last year, April, May month time. So now that's how the breakdown of the buckets is personal, business, and growth. So I didn't ask about or talk about the niche question today because it wouldn't have made any sense to talk about niche question. I mean, that's on you to figure out your niche, but you've already now by now figured out that niche is one thing, target audience is the immediate second. Once you have these exactly, then you can go and you can be like, hey, now these are my content buckets. So there's no point having a bucket if you don't have like the first two columns filled. Now, as you see on the screen, it says find five people. We're going to break the room for like chat. I'm going to quickly go around, get some water. But what I'm saying is that we now, as a part of an exercise of the activity of this particular workshop, all have to go back home and find out five profiles that maybe we would like to follow as content. Like Rachit is not here, but I was thinking to take his example because Rachit had written name of Niharika Kaur Sodhi in like her favorite creators. Now Rachit wants to be a longevity nutritionist expert, right? But his favorite creator is not from that space, so there is a mismatch. So he's trying to put a plug into a wall. I mean, this is an American wall and this is an Indian plug. It is just not going to work. You have to figure out someone who is a leader in your industry. Like Mridu had a couple of answers. I think there was Nosheen's name was there. There was another person, and that person, she's also Shade. Shade Zarai is also a communications coach. So there's a very specific, perfect found audience. I think it'll be very helpful for you in the content writing workshop because there it'll just be much smoother for you because you've figured out these things about you. Sandhya, for you also, I mean, it's about finding like that five people. I know you have one, but like five people who are in the industry. You have a great find one, but four more. And then I'll tell you why we need these four more. Just give me 1 second. I'll quickly run and I'll come back. Till that time, you guys can chat and I'll take questions and then we'll move to the next session. Just 2 minutes. Okay, water. And I'm back. Wow, it didn't take that long. It was just on the table.
I mean, before we could even press unmute,
Yeah.
you were back.
What can I say? I get FOMO'd out pretty quick. Okay, yeah.
But
So
hey, I mean, I have a question if I may.
yeah, go for it.
So you mentioned one thing around keeping it one to one versus one to many, right? How do we identify when we would need to do that, or if you want to save it for later works?
Okay. So very, very simple answer to this. Number one, when you're talking about a personal experience, like or a professional experience of whatever the terminology is, like you end up meeting me in real life, you end up meeting Sandhya in real life, you guys catch up over a cup of coffee. Now, what you're talking about in that post is that we were in a workshop. That's exactly how we met. And she's from Bangalore, I'm from Bangalore, she's from Hyderabad. She was flying to Bangalore for a meeting, and we just thought of catching up. We had great conversations. She's in HR and we were actually hiring. And then, we were able to collaborate on this. She helped me with two agencies and, by whatever will happen. I mean, given that should have happened, right? Like, of course. But what I'm saying is that now this is kind of like the conversation. Now, if it is having a messaging at the end, network or go out or meet people or whatever, it's still like a personal experience. You wouldn't be talking to a stage this story. This is a more like a personal one-on-one experience. So you'll use a one-on-one tone. But let's say you have to talk about that your company secured funding or something big has happened at work or you're announcing a scheme or a policy for your team or you've done something of that sort that or maybe when you're like hiring for a certain role, all of those should have a one-to-many voice. Like there's no point putting like a first person narrative to this, even though first person narrative posts will work better when you're saying that, oh, this happened to me, I was this and that, it will. But for you, for your authoritative voice, you need to have that where you kind of like announcing. Like I use it sometimes when I would say that, oh, this workshop's happening, oh, that event is happening. So yeah. So having that differentiation is important. Otherwise, bro, if you're just going all ho gungo with like, this happened in my life, that happened in my life, audience gets like bored of that also, na. You want every mirch masala, everything in the movie. And that's why there are like layers of that. So same as your brand. You need to have layers that you have as a person. You're not like, I'm not a happy person all the time. So people should not only see just happy side of me online just because they would say that, oh my God, so happy. No, nah, there's other side also. And that helps shape like the entire brand. And that helps people connect. Okay. Next question. Good. We're good. Okay. So we'll move on to the next segment, but I'll just remind you of the homework one last time. We want to now find 5 relevant profiles, right? So, like, if you have one, get 4 more. If you have 3, get 2 more and have those 5 relevant profiles. Now, next thing is, what are you going to do